told her if she's coming online today, she can invite me, so I might leave at a random point.
Okay.
Buddhas, compassionate ones, throughout the infinite worlds of the 10 directions, grant your blessings so that the inner and outer work that I accomplished today bears the fruits that multiply beyond imagining and extend to the very limits of this existence to benefit myself, the ones I love, and the countless other beings of the 6 realms.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Well, hello, everyone. Like it's a small group today, which is
Yeah, so far.
fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's summer, so well,
It's
I
a
guess
Monday
people
too,
go
you
and
know.
play outside a little bit more.
People don't like Mondays.
Yeah. Well, I only teach on Mondays, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to do with it.
Thank God I have air conditioning. Kind of hot here too.
Yeah. Today we're gonna have a special session, I guess, because we're gonna talk about the subjects that can be all of them can be interpreted two ways. We're gonna be talking about taking refuge. We're gonna be talking about faith. We're talking about doubt. And they both sort of work both ways, so we're going to try and explore that together. But first, let's start with a little 10 minutes of meditation. I think you're all used, so let's make it a silent shamatha meditation. Just follow your breath, you know the drill. And when the bell rings again, start on the teaching commentary. right. Hope it got all of us in the mood and help disconnect a little bit from daily routine. Hello, Mar. Thank you for joining us. Hey, a couple of exciting things. We were discussing that a little bit outside. So I've been playing Indiana Jones and exploring virgin lands in the last few days. And I actually am gonna probably make an offer on one today. So as I was saying to some of you outside, it's a huge piece of land on the side of a mountain, and the plan is to build a road for now, but then go and develop it slowly. Might try and do a crowdfunding campaign actually to get that going. I don't know how it will turn out, but anyway, it's going to be run through a not-for-profit corporation, so we're going to have to find ways to finance ourselves with. I'm donating the land that I'm buying, the not-for-profit, basically. But to do the rest, I might some contributions and things like that. So.
By the way, your
could
voice
run
is
some
kind of low
things.
today.
Oh. I don't know. It's been doing that for a while. Can you hear me better now?
Tiny bit. By the way, I have to say one thing.
Yep.
I can focus so clear now. I was like, focus on my nose, following my breathing, up and down, up and down. Wow.
No more distraction.
Nope.
Oh, that's great.
Quite amazing.
Yeah. So the storm in your mind is going away. It's clearing up. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, as I was saying, retreat center is a long-term project. I don't expect this to be completed by this year or anything. Might do some retreats at some point when we are getting started to finance the thing. But we will see how it goes. It's a dream I've been having for a long time to build sort of a sustainable community and a retreat center all in one. So we'll see if that's possible. Another exciting thing is completely unrelated to the Sangha, but to my other activities here in VR chat, and is the fact that the NASA is coming to JobCon to do a conference this Wednesday. And so if you're not, yeah, we actually got Jacqueline Lyra, who's the main engineer of the Perseverance rover that went to Mars. She's going to come and tell us about how they built that and how specifically they used virtual reality and simulation to make it
really
happen.
Cool.
Nice.
So it's free. I think it's at 7:30 Eastern this Wednesday. But anyway, I can post the details somewhere in the channel if you guys would like to attend.
Yeah, please do. That'd be awesome.
You're more than welcome to do so. I think a lot of Buddhists are also fascinated with the universe, so NASA is kind of a natural fit.
Yeah. We are.
Yeah. So these are my two, I guess, more exciting news. My third exciting news is, of course, Jared's VR chat girlfriend. Congrats, Jared.
Thanks.
I hope I hope everything goes fine for you. And actually, I'm gonna try and bring some content that relate to that today. We'll see if I'm. Julia, I know that you would be ready to read, or Mara, did you come prepared? Would you like to read today's chapter?
I did not come prepared, so if Julia would do it.
Yeah.
But only for this time, Mar.
Would you like to join me in front, Julia, please?
I am having trouble because I only have one controller, but yeah.
What is that? The battery died?
Something like that.
Okay.
The way of faith. Those who take refuge in the three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, are called the disciples of Buddha. The disciples of Buddha observe the four parts of mind control: the precepts, faith, offering, and wisdom. The disciples of Buddha practice the 5 precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not to lie, and not to take intoxicants of any kind. The disciples of Buddha have faith in the Buddha's perfect wisdom. They try to keep away from greediness and selfishness and to practice offering. They understand the law of cause and effect, keeping in mind the transiency of life and conform to the norm of wisdom. A tree leaning toward the east will naturally fall eastward, and so those who listen to the Buddha's teaching and maintain faith in it will surely be born in the Buddha's pure land. It has rightly been said that those who believe in the 3 treasures of Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha are called the disciples of Buddha. The Buddha is the one who attained perfect enlightenment and used his attainment to emancipate and bless all mankind. The Dharma is the truth, the spirit of enlightenment, and the teaching that explains it. The Sangha is the perfect brotherhood of believers in the Buddha and Dharma. We speak of Buddhahood, the Dharma, and the brotherhood as though they are 3 different things, but they are really only one. Buddha is manifested in his Dharma and is realized by the brotherhood. Therefore, to believe in the Dharma and to cherish the brotherhood is to have faith in the Buddha. And to have faith in the Buddha means to believe in the Dharma and to cherish the brotherhood. Therefore, people are emancipated and enlightened simply by having faith in the Buddha. Buddha is the perfectly enlightened one, and he loves everyone as though each were his only child. So, if anyone regards Buddha as his own parent, he identifies himself with Buddha and attains enlightenment. Those who thus regard Buddha will be supported by his wisdom and perfumed by his grace. Nothing in the world brings greater benefit than to believe in Buddha. Just hearing Buddha's name, believing and being pleased even for a moment, is incomparably rewarding. Therefore, one must please oneself by seeking the teaching of Buddha in spite of the conflagration that fills all the world. It will be hard to meet a teacher who can explain the Dharma. It will be harder to meet a Buddha, but it will be hardest to believe in his teaching. But now that you have met the Buddha, who is hard to meet, and have had it explained to you what is hard to hear, you ought to rejoice and believe and have faith in Buddha. On the long journey of human life, faith is the best of companions. It is the best refreshment on the journey, and it is the greatest possession. Faith is the hand that receives the Dharma. It is the pure hand that receives all the virtues. Faith is the fire that consumes all the impurities of worldly desires. It removes a burden, and it is the guide that leads one's way. Faith removes greed, fear, and pride. It teaches courtesy and to respect others. It frees one from the bondage of circumstances. It gives one courage to meet hardship. It gives one power to overcome temptations. It enables one to keep one's deed bright and pure, and it enriches the mind with wisdom. Faith is the encouragement when one's way is long and wearisome, and it leads to enlightenment. Faith makes us feel that we are in the presence of Buddha, and it brings us to where Buddha's arms supports us. Faith softens our hand and selfish minds, and he gives us a friendly spirit and a mind of understanding sympathy. Those who have faith gain the wisdom to recognize the Buddha's teaching in whatever they hear. Those who have faith gain the wisdom to see that everything is but the appearance that arises from the law of causes and conditions. And then, faith gives them the grace of patient acceptance and the ability to conform to their conditions peacefully. Faith gives them the wisdom to recognize the transiency of life and the grace not to be surprised or grieved at whatever comes to them or with the passing of life itself. Knowing that, however conditions and appearances may change, the truth of life remains always unchanged. Faith has three significant aspects: repentance, a rejoicing and sincere respect for the virtues of others, and a grateful acceptance of Buddha's appearance. People should cultivate these aspects of faith. They should be sensitive to the failings and impurities. They should be ashamed of them and confess them. They should diligently practice the recognition of the good traits and good deeds of others and praise them for their sake. And they should habitually desire to act with Buddha and to live with Buddha. The mind of faith is the mind of sincerity. It is a deep mind, a mind that is sincerely glad to be led to Buddha's Pure Land by his power. Therefore, Buddha gives a power to faith that leads people to the Pure Land, a power that purifies them, a power that protects them from self-delusion. Even if they have faith only for a moment, when they hear Buddha's name praised all over the world, they will be led to his Pure Land. Faith is not something that is added to the worldly mind. It is the manifestation of the mind's Buddha nature. One who understands Buddha is a Buddha himself. One who has faith in Buddha is Buddha himself. But it is difficult to uncover and recover one's Buddha nature. It is difficult to maintain a pure mind in the constant rise and fall of greed, anger, and worldly passion. Yet, faith enables one to do it. Within the forest of the poisonous Aranda trees, only Aranda trees are said to grow, but not the fragrant Chandana. It is a miracle if a Chandana tree grows in an Aranda forest. Likewise, it is often a miracle that faith in Buddha grows in the heart of the people. Therefore, the faith to believe in Buddha is called a rootless faith. That is, it has no root by which it can grow in the human mind, but it has a root to grow in the compassionate mind of Buddha. Thus, faith is fruitful and sacred, but faith is hard to awaken in an idle mind. In particular, there are 5 doubts that lurk in the shadows of the human mind and tend to discourage faith. First, there is doubt in the Buddha's wisdom. Second, there is doubt in the Buddha's teaching. Third, there is doubt in the person who explains the Buddha's teaching. Fourth, there is doubt as to whether the ways and methods suggested for following the noble path are reliable. And fifth, there is a person who, because of his arrogant and impatient mind, may doubt the sincerity of others who understand and follow the Buddha's teachings. Indeed, there is nothing more dreadful than doubt. Doubt separates people. It is a poison that disintegrates friendships and breaks up pleasant relations. It is a thorn that irritates and hurts. It is a sword that kills. The beginnings of faith were long ago planted by the compassion of Buddha. When one has faith, one should realize this fact and be grateful to Buddha for his goodness. One should never forget that it is not because of one's own compassion that one has awakened faith, but because of the Buddha's compassion, which long ago threw its pure light of faith into human minds and dispelled the darkness of their ignorance. He who enjoys the present faith has entered into their heritage. Even living an ordinary life, one can be born in the Pure Land if he awakens faith through the Buddha's long-continued compassion. It is indeed hard to be born in this world. It is hard to hear the Dharma. It is harder to awaken faith. Therefore, everyone should try one's best to hear the Buddha's teaching.
Thank you. Okay with your
Yeah,
control?
thank you.
All right. So, before I begin, let's see what you guys thought of that. Is there, you have questions or point that
To be
caught
honest,
your
I didn't
attention?
listen at all. I was focusing on my breath all the time, refining the small movements. So, sorry.
All right.
I apologize if I'm speaking over somebody. I don't have VR right now, so I think I'll just say it. But I think something very interesting about the way that they posited faith in using it to overcome doubt. I currently am experiencing a lot of challenges in my life where I'm never sure if the teacher or the book that I'm reading, or even if the experiences that I'm having are genuine in helping me progress through the path. So it's interesting using a perspective of faith, of Buddha's like divine wisdom, as maybe it would like pierce through all of those experiences. So it's like you can't ever get lost. At least that was my interpretation.
Well, I'm gonna try to cover that a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna be playing around with faith, and I'm gonna call it openness instead. And
Perfect.
we're gonna look at the five doubts themselves. But let's go back to the beginning, where there were mentions of taking refuge. And just out of curiosity, did any of you take refuge with a master before?
Nope.
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
It's a very simple process. Really, taking refuge. Basically, you sit with your master, a big 5 minutes, and you kind of recite, "I take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha," and then they give you they tie a little rope together, tie a little knot, and they give you the knot, and that represents the link that you have with the teaching and that you have teacher. We might do a refuge taking ceremony at some point if you guys are very serious in your practice and would like to tie yourself like that. But
Yeah, that'd be sick.
I'm not sure how I will tie a knot in VR, but I can always try.
I've done pet finding. I know how to do knots.
I can shove my shoelaces, so I think I can tie a knot.
Yeah, I'll need an animation. All right, so just what does that mean to take refuge? And let's just look at this word, refuge. When do you seek refuge? I'm asking you in life in general, what are the occasions where one needs refuge?
When you don't have a home, or when you're on the
Danger.
run.
Yeah.
You're on the run, there is danger, you don't have a shelter, right? So when you feel like you need to protect yourself from the world or the elements, when you are in the way of, let's say, physical harm, somebody's trying to attack you, you want to run away from them, seek refuge. Have you ever sought refuge for uncomfortable emotions? Have you ever escaped from uncomfortable emotions?
Oh, for sure.
I think we all did.
What kind of refuge do we seek when we escape from emotions.
Well, some people seek it in addictions, so I mean, you could say that's kind of like a mental refuge for them by trying to push it away or running away
What's
from it.
what makes addictive substance addictive, do you think?
It makes you forget
Because you
about
don't
your
want to.
worries. That's what I would say about your fears and worries.
They make you forget. That's the one I heard. And a bunch of people spoke together, and I missed the other part. So, Mara, you said something as well.
Yeah, exactly something as Casper says. So you
Okay.
want to hide something with using of substances.
You're covering it up. Okay. Freak, I
Yes.
think you said something as well.
Yeah, so from what I know, right, it's they can be either chemical or psychological dependencies.
And so here we're talking about the nature of the addictive substance. Why do we use it? What do they do to us? And so Casper and Mara are saying they make us forget what's troubling us. Could it be that they're simply pleasurable? Sometimes,
For sure.
you know,
Oh yeah.
they may give us an experience of euphoria. And so when you oppose that to a painful emotion or a painful experience, then it becomes really a refuge. I run to where it's pleasurable, to where I feel kind of like I'm having a good time instead of being here under the fire. There are other types of escapes, I would say, like, when you're procrastinating, like, you have something to do. It becomes sort of a scary thought. And so sometimes I believe we're looking just to be mindless as well, right? Like a computer game could be used. I'm gonna go and mindlessly shoot little soldiers on my screen, and that way I don't have to deal with the chore at hand. So what I want to point out there is that we have hundreds, if not thousands, of ways of escape during a normal life, during a normal week, and taking refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha is actually saying, instead of running to alcohol or running to drugs or running to games or to a box of chocolate cookie, now I will rely on the teachings, or I will rely on my brotherhood, or I will rely on my own wisdom, or my teacher in times of need. So it's just that you're selecting the place that you're going to run to from now on, because you know that place to be a little bit healthier. I know of people who quit smoking, who told me that they quit smoking by substituting their cigarettes for carrots. And whenever they would get, an urge to smoke. Julia, you might want to mute yourself. We hear. Yeah,
Well,
thanks.
my dad actually quit smoking in one day, got a heart attack. Never smoked since.
My
Did he?
goodness.
Did he
That's really
survive?
strong. Yeah, he's doing fine.
All right.
Got a new
Yeah,
heart
quitting.
like 20 years ago. Still working well.
Well, quitting cold turkey is difficult. Most of us go to substitution. Either we start eating more when we stop smoking, or we get into a habit of playing with our hands, fidgeting or something. And but the point here is that if you're substituting carrots for cigarettes, well, it's probably a better addiction anyway. So I
Yeah.
guess the idea here is that if you're gonna run away, well, don't run away towards your old habit. Try to run away back to the teachings, to the Dharma. So that's the real sense of taking refuge there. Do you have a question, Julia?
I remember one of my lamas explaining the taking of refuge He would insist that taking refuge was taking responsibility. And
Yes.
taking responsibility meant facing what you had to face and not running away from it. Just the contrary of those other refuges.
Well, yes, because, and that's kind of the next part of what I was about to share, is that if you're going to take refuge in the teaching, well, what does that mean? It means that you're going to rely on wisdom. And what is wisdom? Wisdom is to face emotions. Wisdom is to understand your body, to understand your mind, to understand what's going on completely, wholly, and then to deal with it differently. I sometimes like to call it emotional judo. You know, you use the power of the situation that you're going through, and you're kind of transferring the weight over to the other side. Some people
Yep.
call it alchemy as well, because you're taking some energies and you're building something else out of them. But it requires a lot of taking responsibility there. You need to to manage your entire situation. But you know, we don't always have that strength in the beginning. And if you're feeling down in the dumps, why not come to a meeting of the Sangha that will give you a little bit of strength through the collective? Why not pick a Dharma book and read a few passages and feel that you're not alone anymore? Because Dharma has that quality, universal human experience. Why not go and confide in your teacher and share a little bit about what you're going through as well? So this is all the sense of taking refuge here. And I think the most important part to remember about that is the part where you decide what your escape's going to be. There comes
I've
a
been
time
doing a
where,
lot of emotional judo the past few days. One good advice,
how did it go?
put it into words. That really helps. Just write
I'm sorry, could you
down,
repeat that?
say it to someone.
I'm sorry, Jared, I've had some sound glitches. Could you repeat what you were saying?
Yep, I said I've been having a lot of emotional judo past few days. So one advice is either write it down or tell it to someone. That really helps.
Right.
Just put it into words.
Yes. Yes, well, just an emotion, you know, when you're feeling something, anything, just try and give a name to it. And
Yeah.
oftentimes, when you are able to name it, that emotion, uh, the struggle is half resolved. Because all of what happens is that you start understanding yourself by putting a name to it, which is something we don't do enough.
Yeah.
Another thing about the refuge and the Buddha Dharma Sangha is that who we call the Buddha is traditionally Prince Siddhartha. And now they tell us that Prince Siddhartha was known as the Buddha because he was the enlightened. So anybody that is an enlightened one is. And the Buddha is also the teacher. But at the same time, we get this deeper sense about the Buddha nature and the Buddha field where we feel that everything is the Buddha. Now, if we make a parallel with the Dharma, well, the Dharma is the teaching of the Buddha. So, of course, that includes the words of Siddhartha Gautama and the words of the enlightened ones before and after. And so, the world, the entire words of all of the enlightened ones are Dharma. Everything is the Dharma. So everything in a way is the Buddha and everything is the Dharma. You can learn from it. Now the Sangha used to mean the same thing in the old sense of the word Sangha. It was the community of the enlightened ones. So again, it was a bunch of Buddha doing Buddha stuff in the Buddha field. So it was pretty much again the same thing. Now the Sangha is used to mean the community of people that are studying Dharma, people that are trying to open their eyes. And you know, most of us are partially awake and partially asleep. And what's important is that together move closer to Buddha and to his teaching. So I guess there is this absolute quality about the refuge that you're always taking refuge in the same wisdom, but that is manifested differently. It could be in the scriptures, it could be in the spoken word, it could be in the presence of someone, it could be in the community that we get here in VR chat, or it could be physical. But it's just there. I also wanted to make a little correction about the precepts that were detailed at the beginning of the lecture, which they were saying to refrain from adultery, and this has been updated to sexual misconduct for obvious reasons. There are many ways to hurt people through lustful behaviors, and so just wanted to point out that adultery shouldn't be the only point of vigilance there. But then what the scripture today spoke the most about was faith. And I'd like to hear you. What's your relationship on faith? We've been touching on that for a few times. Do you guys feel that you have faith in the teaching of the Buddha, or like you would in the teaching of Christ, for example?
Well,
How does it work? What's your experience of it?
I'd say that it's not like I'm making some kind of cross before I sleep and pray to Siddhartha Buddha, his name, his holiness, and all that kind of stuff. But like you see with the main religions, but just the whole meditation and coming down with in the present and in the now. It did help me a lot appreciating just regular stuff while I'm walking, and sometimes stuff that I would just walk past and never pay attention, like a bunch of flowers with bees all over the place and things that I would start smelling for the first time because otherwise I wouldn't pay attention to it. So it did help me with my anxieties in that regard. So yeah, in that regard I don't really have to have faith, like I hope it will do something, because I am already experiencing quite some positive benefits from it.
Yeah, pretty much see it as science.
Although that doesn't believe that I believe everything the sutra. I mean, I read a couple of things that if you pray to this specific Buddha name or something, you will be reborn in the Pure Lands and stuff like. I mean, those things I always can think critical about or more symbolic about, but it's just the impact that, you know, the way a new perspective, you know, I would say it like that.
So there are things that you is it that you reject them and say, oh, that's bull, you know, or is it that it's like, oh, there might be a symbol there, but I don't quite get it yet?
Well, I would say that first of all, I would say that there are a lot of things that I'm not sure if it is or if it isn't, so I'm not calling everything bull. But I would say that the more I read sometimes, especially if you go deeper in certain of the cultures and stuff like that, and some of the more complicated ones, that you begin to think like they're getting muddying, like suddenly there are like 10 different kind of Buddhas, and this speaks of 12 other kinds of Buddhas, and this one says if you pray with this Buddha's name, eventually before you die you will be reborn in the Pure Lands, and everything and everyone and all things say different things, and I'm like, okay, then it's interesting as reading it, but I'm not going to completely change my life into an almost religion type of way. I mean, I think that's also not the point, because I think even Siddhartha said that even with his own teachings, you should stay critical, and if it doesn't help you, well, that you have to find something else then, if I remember correctly.
I'd say symbols are pretty much cultural power.
Yeah, it's true. Julia, I think you wanted to contribute something as well.
Yeah, definitely. As Casper said, if Buddha is telling us to experience things and not believe them, and then they talk about faith, I think what they're referring to is at the whatever it can help us. The first time I heard the Dharma, I heard a Lama speaking in a conference, and it just clicked onto me like the science of the mind, and it helped me understand and realize many things and take responsibility, especially about what I was living. And maybe there are other ways that Dharma can reach people. There's 84,000 ways that are taught, all of them different according to your level. So I don't like the word faith, but I think
But
it
maybe
does
somebody
click
does.
at some level. It will click with you,
Some
with
people,
your
yes.
mind frame, with your culture, and you will find that the teaching is a very good help for you to end suffering.
Yeah, the way that they justify it in those Pure Land Buddhist schools is that people are busy and they don't have the time to understand, so they can come and have faith and get into it slowly as years pass, and then sometimes they may have more time and they can explore more deeply. But actually, I like that. I mean, for me, faith is almost an offensive word because I'm a Westerner, and I've had a bittersweet relationship with faith. Um, but the way that it was described in today's lecture wasn't bad at all, actually. Because, for example, I remember that they were saying it's not added to the worldly mind, that is rather, part of the Buddha's nature. And actually, I'd like to relate it to Shoshin, which is the name of this word, of this weird world. And you might remember what Shoshin means. You guys remember?
It were like I think there were like 3 of them or 4. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah, Fudoshin, Mushin, Shoshin, Senshin. But this particular one is Shoshin. And Shoshin
Beginner's
is,
mind?
yep, beginner's mind. And forget faith, okay? If we were to read again the same text, and we would just replace the word faith by humble mind or by openness, then we would see, when you're open, you cannot be arrogant and open. You cannot be full of yourself and empty yourself at the same time. So if you are open, you are an empty vessel, you are ready to receive, and that's the beginner's mind. Contrary to the expert has a lot of things that he wants to say, and the beginner has a lot of things that he wants to listen to. So when you're approaching Buddhism, I feel that this term faith is very closely related to openness. And it's not only openness, it's an openness that is very close to love. Uh, when you love somebody, you need to create space for them. Right? You need to take care of their environment. You need to allow them to be all they can be. You cannot keep them locked in a room somewhere to preserve their beauty. Keep them for yourself, right? So you need to help them bloom and become something even more beautiful, even happy. So there's a lot of open space and freedom that is implied in true love. Well, that's how we should approach not only the teaching but the world in general if we want the world to teach us something. if I come to you and I conform you to all of my expectations, you won't be able to teach me anything because you will be behaving within the little box I have created for you. A lot of bosses do that in the workplace. They hire you because of your talents, but then they reduce your level of action. They reduce your freedom to the point that you cannot even use your talents in the job. We do that with our lover. Well, if we do that with the teaching, it's not good also, right? Because you're there. You must start where you are. You must start thinking, okay, I would like to acquire some wisdom. I am not especially wise right now. But then if you come and you walk to the Buddha and I'll tell you what's wise, you won't be learning a lot from it as well. So that's where faith is kind of the vehicle that helps you develop yourself. If you again substitute this word for openness, you see that if you're in the presence of the Buddha and you're resisting everything that's being said, you won't advance much further. But if you can
Okay, I'm
listen
gonna
to
take
it
a small
patiently,
break. Be right back.
all right. Um, so again, in love, I was saying it's like a surrender. You need to also accept that the world will do what the world do. So by having faith in the teaching or having faith in someone, if you have not gotten rid of your expectations completely, it is probable that at some point they will get frustrated, that this person won't behave in the way that you would like to, or that the teachings won't say the things that you would like them to say, or that even the teacher will act in a way that you don't like. So to be truly open and to truly have faith in someone or something implies the risk of getting hurt, implies the risk of uh, learning the hard way. But in any case, it implies learning. Does that make sense?
I'd say so, but
Yes,
that's
yeah.
kind of difficult because in today's world, you almost are getting taught in that you should not open yourself or not let yourself stand your guard down because you should build walls around you to protect yourself. And I mean, yeah, to open yourself, it's a tricky thing. Some people have it difficult to do.
Right. So it's funny because we come from faith, and then we turn it into openness, and then we start seeing that openness is a teaching in itself. That having faith in life is a teaching in itself. And you immediately brought it kind of on the personal level there, like, oh, but if I'm open, it means I'm exposed. And I was taught not to expose myself. I was taught basically to defend. And in a way, I was taught to take advantage of those that are vulnerable and, not defending properly because I live in a competitive society. But that is a very interesting experience to make, actually, to go out in the open and reveal a secret flaw that you have, for example, or to make fun of yourself in front of a crowd, or uh, to go on that adventure that you would have never gone to because you were too busy protecting yourself. When you start saying yes to a lot of things like that, you start to grow at a tremendous speed because you start to live a bunch of new experiences that you were shielding yourself from until this very moment. Um, Buddhism is about becoming as fully human as you can and as getting the richest experience out of life as you can. And you can only do that if you are open to the entire range of emotions and to the entire range of human experience. You cannot say, okay, in this world, half of what is offered to me, I won't have. And then and with the same breath, pretend that you're having a rich experience of life. You cannot call yourself an American or Canadian or German and say that you are a citizen of the world. You're either one or the other. So as we create those divides, as we create our forts and our defenses, we are missing on all of this rich teaching. So let's look at the doubts that they were bringing up in the lecture. They were saying that there were 5 kinds of doubts. I turned them into questions just for fun. Let's evaluate where it is that our faith is weaker or stronger. So, do I believe that the Buddha was wise? What do you guys say? Was Siddhartha Gautama a wise person?
I'd say so.
I'd say the Siddhartha Gautama, what he represents is a wise person, but I've never actually met the historical one, so I can only talk about the representation from what I've heard. And for me, his manifestation is the representation what I've learned. So I'm not someone that would say I'm fairly sure that if Siddhartha would be here, I would immediately follow him with everything, because I still separate myself from the historical figure and from the representation.
Right. So, if he was a man, it is possible that at some point he insulted somebody, or that he got frustrated, that he got angry, or especially maybe before his enlightenment.
Isn't it true that
Maybe
I even heard that even when he was enlightened, that if I read it correctly, that he had difficulty actually accepting in his sangha women as monks first, and that it was his disciple Ananda that actually managed to convince him to start accepting women in the sangha. So and that was during his enlightened times. That's something I've read there.
I read that sutra a while ago. I don't pretend to remember it very clearly, but that sounds about right. And yeah, so you see, just because you can look at the world anew, because you have acquired the eyes of enlightenment, because you open your eyes, doesn't mean that you're immediately free from tradition. Which I guess he was wise enough, though he had his eyes open enough, though when it was exposed to him, he said, all right, yeah, it makes sense. Let's bring women. But in the beginning, I guess he was just following the traditions of before. And it's the same thing. That's kind of how the path starts for us. We open our eyes, and then we see how badly programmed we are, and then start working on that vulnerability, on that openness, on destroy our addictions and our automatic behaviors of all kinds. So let's say that the Buddha, we don't know because we never met him. But yeah, the way he's depicted feels like he was a wise guy. Well, at least we have the teachings. So what do we think about the teachings? Are the teachings wise? That was the second element of doubt. And Casper, I guess you answered that a little bit earlier by saying, well, they work for me, and I think Charity had corroborated. So
And
as far as the teachings go,
I think even the science, I think there's a lot of science about in psychology and scientific research about meditation and mind control, in the sense of being able to influence the mind.
I like to call it the science of mind. It's quite simple actually. Just observe your thoughts accept it, I'll be fine. At least that's how I see it.
Yes, I think the simpler the practice, oftentimes the most powerful it is. It's easy to get lost in thousands of years of teachings and scriptures
Yeah.
and get very philosophical about it. But if you're debating whether a Buddhist should like the color blue or the color red, you're pretty much lost. You're not doing Buddhism anymore.
Blue.
Right,
like
Mara
purple.
solved it. It's blue. I have faith, you guys, in blue.
Why are the curtains
We
purple?
all need a blue
Uh,
house. We all need a blue car. We all need a.
No, but I'm a member of many Buddhist groups on Facebook, and every day somebody comes and say something like, "What does the Buddha think about short skirts?" And guess what? The Buddha doesn't give a damn about short skirts.
Exactly.
It's really none of his business, you know. What's important is what do you think about short skirts, and what do you think applies to the society and around you, you know. And when you decide if it's wise or not, act accordingly.
It reminds me of one of those, when people are like, I think even Stephen King got annoyed and made fun of that. It's like when people call all logic about writers, what they write in their book. One of the most example is, why do you think the writer made the curtains purple? Could he be depressed? Could he be dead? And the funniest stance would be like, because he liked the color purple. Yeah.
Yeah, so people like to have how-tos. Well, in fact, you know, I think the first representation of that for me was people cooking. There are some people who cook with a book of recipes, and they cannot cook without the book. And there are other people that you just give them a handful of ingredients and they will make something tasty because they kind of understand the ingredients and how to mix them. And actually, maybe a mixture of both is not bad, but a lot of us are looking for the book. A lot of us would like to have the how-to, especially now, you know, with YouTube and everything. You build a little birdhouse. The first thing you do is you go to YouTube and how to build a birdhouse, and you select your best
Yeah.
video, and then you start doing it. It's a bit lazy, isn't it? Why not design my own concept of a birdhouse? Why not build one where I've never seen one before? I might come up with something amazing and innovative and wonderful. But we don't do that. We are a bit lazy. So a lot of people treat Buddhism like that. They want a code of ethics. They want more code of morals that they can follow and laws that they can obey. And then they will know that if they stand within the boundaries of those laws, that they are a good Buddhist. Catholics do the same. Well,
Sounds
to
like
me,
fate, yeah.
To me, that's trash.
But
To
that's
me, that's
Vinaya.
trash. I mean,
That's Vinaya
then,
Hinayana.
well, you know, if you want to start somewhere, that's fine. But Buddhism is so much about freedom and again, about being all that you can be, that it feels like a total contradiction to be putting yourself in a little box like that of do's and don'ts. And it also is very dual, right? Because it would kind of make the divide between good and evil real. It's a very black and white vision of the world when you're thinking that there's a good way and wrong way of things. So for me, that's again, it might serve as a good introduction, but that's not Buddhism. Buddhism's about freedom and love, and not laws. And then
And also,
yes,
people are generally really lazy. The less work they want to do, the better.
yes, yes. You know, I was amazed when I was watching, I think, a show of people hunting, and they were talking about the fact that nature always takes the path of least resistance. And so they would put a branch in the way there, and they would know that the animal would just turn left when they encounter the branch. But even if it was not an animal, imagine just water falling down the hill. If you put a rock in its path, it will go around it or something. Why
Yeah.
climb it? So it's not just us, and sometimes we feel guilty for our laziness. But it's not just us. Nature is hardwired to take the path that is the easiest. Maybe
Yeah.
because that's what's efficient in terms of energy. But it also depends on how you're dealing with the stuff intellectually. Like if it's
Yeah.
taking a toll
And
on
this
you, then
is
by
why
all
the
means
path is
be.
so hard.
I'm
You
sorry.
need to
That
go
is why what?
against your nature, at some point at least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The thing is that our resistance is internal. We resist emotionally and we resist psychologically,
Yeah.
and that makes us resist outwardly. But once you go a little bit against nature and you manage to deprogram those resistance that are inward, then the outer resistance becomes completely accessory. You don't need to do that anymore. And
Yep.
that unprogramming feels a bit weird, but that's how it should. Julie, I think you had raised your hand again.
No, I was trying to organize my controller.
Okay. All right. All right. So the third point of doubt was, is your teacher wise? And that is a difficult one because especially in the Tibetan tradition, they use words like my perfect teacher, and they have guru yoga practices where you are invited to visualize your teacher as this perfect being, like the Buddha. Even even flaws are not flaws; everything becomes a quality, something wonderful. So, is your teacher wise? Is not something that you could decide upon in a matter of days or in a matter of weeks. Uh, it is just like living with someone. The first year may be awesome, and then after the second or the third, or when you start living together, you discover all those little things that you weren't expecting. Um, Instead of telling you like everybody that yeah, your teacher is perfectly fine, focus on that. Why not? Why can't you think the complete contrary? Why not assume that the teacher is not that wise, but he's doing his best to get there, just like you?
No one is perfect.
Okay. Well, I like to see the world as perfectly imperfect or imperfectly
Yeah,
perfect, if
so
you
do
will.
I, but
It's the same with teachers. They're
Just like if someone can teach me something that I don't know, he's a bit wiser. He only has to be a few steps ahead of me, but I can still learn from him. And when we are on the same level, then then you maybe can go look for someone else who can teach you more about it.
Yeah, so in Zen they say when the student is ready, the master appears. But when the student is really ready, the master disappears. And I have found that to be very, very true. Because yes, at some point you might feel this that the teacher is sort of ahead, and it could be just that they read more than you did, right? They learned more stuff by heart, and they're uh, sharing their knowledge about it, or they're sharing their understanding about it. But it could be that on some aspects of their life, they never thought about a certain subject or never spent a lot of time on it while you did. And in that case, you might be the wiser one there. So it's very relative. And I would like to go against what they were saying there in the part about faith and say, keep on doubting, you know? It's just very, the Buddha, as somebody pointed out earlier, it was his advice for us. Doubt everything that I am saying. Don't test everything that I'm saying. And when it's true, well, then you can, when you know it to be true, then you can adopt it. And you can even share it. And you can do the same test too, because it's verified. So it's probably an old version of the scientific method, but for things of the mind and of the heart, I guess it works to have a little bit of skepticism.
Listen, contemplate, and analyze.
Yep. So these are the ways in which we can attain them.
Sounds tiring if you have to contemplate everything or seek the truth about everything.
What is fun is that contemplation doesn't require a lot of conscious effort. It's basically observation, and just through that, it's a type of observation where you're not trying to judge, you're not trying to evaluate, and because of your absence, the truth about the thing that you are observing is revealed. Just look at plants for a while, or look at insects or small animals, and you will see what I mean. Don't judge, just look at what they're doing patiently for a long time, and you will see that you will learn a lot. I guess that's how we started gazing at the stars as well, and how we figured a lot of the mysteries of the universe, just through contemplation, laying in the grass, looking at the sky. So, is your teacher wise? Well, maybe the same thing, you know? Listen, contemplate, analyze, challenge. But in the end, know that the best teacher you will ever be will be yourself. You get discipline.
Yeah, just forget that. You're a great teacher, but I need to teach myself.
Yeah, there are things that
Because I understand myself,
nobody,
I hope. And I'll figure it out.
there are things that nobody can truly teach us unless they would be, you know, in our home,
Yes.
showing us step by step. So that's on us. And then the last question was, no, not the last. The fourth was, is the practice reliable? Well, that's the thing there. You only need meditation, Jared. You said it beautifully earlier. You just have to observe your thoughts.
Yeah.
Observe your thoughts.
It's
observe
really
your mind.
easy, but extremely hard to do.
It's really easy, extremely hard.
I would say
No, seriously,
No.
it is.
I would say it's easy to let the thoughts come, but it's very confronting, and that's what makes it difficult. That's why sometimes you don't want to be alone between four walls, and you want to have company or have the music on or something that makes noise, because observing your thoughts isn't difficult, but it's the confronting parts that it's scary.
Yeah.
It's fearful.
Well,
Yeah, it is.
thank you for bringing that up, because not long ago I've had a chat with somebody who's living I wouldn't call it necessarily a difficult situation. I will call it a mundane situation. Let's say that, let's say that you are stuck in a relationship. That was not the case, but I'll take that as you are in a relationship and you feel like you don't belong there. You feel like you're not being respected or whatever. And then you might have those urges of running away. But then maybe there's a rational side of you that is thinking, well, you know, we have kids and there is the economy, and there is, you have maybe twice as much arguments on the side of the rational thoughts than on the side of the emotion. But sometimes you have this urge and you want to run away and you want to throw everything. But if you look at it objectively, all in all, it's not so bad. It's an okay relationship. It's an okay situation. It's just that you deal with it sometimes. Well, I think it happens to us not only in relationships, but it happens to us at work. It may happen to us with a situation with friends. It may happen to us with a health condition from somebody we love or whatever, but there are these situations that when we look at them right in the face, it feels very, very uncomfortable and we want to run away.
Yeah, so let
Well,
me tell a small story. I have a guy at work that I
yes.
used to hate. But I think we're friends now. Because I accepted him for what he was. So that's weird.
Well, that's the thing is that this thing that Casper is describing here is like a muscle as well. As you learn to face your fears and to kind of sit with that psychological anguish, then the next time maybe it takes 10% more to make you run. And if you face it again, then maybe next time it takes 20% more to make you run, and so on. And what happens is that at some point you get into the other mind state, which is Shoshin, where you basically become unshakable. There, even those long lingering situations that are spanning years lose their power of making you run. You can still go away, but the difference is that you don't do it on an impulsion anymore. You don't do it because you lost control and you wanted to escape.
Yeah.
You do it because you have decided, after thinking about it an appropriate amount of time and feeling it an appropriate amount of time, that this was the thing to do. So, in other words, this practice is immensely important in our quest for enlightenment because it's
Yes, it
what
is.
makes you stable. If you don't develop the courage of enlightenment, which is, I guess, what I'm pointing at right now, if you don't develop the courage to look pain in the eye and stay there, you cannot become stable in your practice because every time the wind will blow, you will be shown off tracks. So we really, really need to get acquainted with our suffering and with our fears and with our escapes and just stretch it a little bit more every time before we act. And this is the most difficult part for me of my Buddhist practice. I bet it will be the same for you, you know? Take whatever it is you despise and stay with it and tell me how pleasant that is. Well, the cool thing is that as you do this, can you see that it's sort of your territory in life is growing? Because all of a sudden, the environment is losing its power to move you. Other people are losing their power to move you. Situations are losing their power to impress you.
Yes.
And therefore, you just grow 10% by 10% a new world for yourself, where you are free, where everybody is scared still. And that is the enlightened life. When you walk the world completely free, worryless, and happy, and you see that everybody around you is scared, you know you're on your way to a
I'm
very
actually starting to see
blissful
that
life.
in people.
Yes. Yes, I think that from the very start of our connecting with the teaching, obviously it gives us insight into our own fears and our own habits, and we start recognizing them in others. And for me, in the beginning, it was an urge. I wanted to help them. I wanted to, don't you see what you're doing to yourself here? You don't have to be fearful. You don't have to. But then people are not necessarily ready. So it's better to observe silently and wait for an opening. But yeah, that's where
To
I
be
guess it
honest,
leads.
I'm happy I can help people now.
Yeah,
That really means a lot to me.
yeah. So did you do you mean that since you embrace the path, you're able to help people? Have you done that already a little bit?
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Um, the last point was, I guess, in a modern way, I would say that some people think that those who follow a spiritual tradition do it because they are weak. So the last point of doubt was, is that our opinion of the followers of Buddhism? Do we think that we are on a spiritual path because we are weak, or do we think actually that it's a path for the courageous and the strong?
I think that
That would be
I think there's about being weak or courageous and strong, because I find the term courageous and strong kind of it. I once saw, there was this one movie I saw about let's say he was like some kind of superhero, so he was very strong, you know. He could face any situation, and then suddenly he met some kind of same power as him, and the first thing he did was panicking because he never faced something that could potentially step toe to toe with him. So I think courage actually comes often with the weak, because if you're weak, you probably see things that could hurt you or things that could endanger you, like going with a car, but still doing so, even though the dangers that could lay upon you. I think that's actually where the real courage comes from. But so I don't think being weak is always a bad thing, because I think there's a lot of courage about being weak and still moving forward.
I agree.
it takes courage to embrace vulnerability. I like this definition
Yes.
of courage that says that the one that is courageous is not the one that is not afraid. It's the one that is afraid, but that does it anyway. You know, that's courage. So for me, being a peaceful warrior or a Shambhala warrior relates a lot to that. It's being away, it's being able to look at fear and keep on advancing. And as you move into the territory of fear, oftentimes, just like fear of the dark, you realize that there was nothing to fear to begin with. That it was a lot of mental projections, a lot of self-imposed limitation. Uh, so, well, don't go jumping off a mountain just because you want to expand your territory into fear. You know, there are things that will kill you. But if you cannot
Most
see any lethal immediate danger, you can probably advance this effort. Yes, Mark.
Yeah,
most
so when I
fears
was
and
young, oh, sorry.
most
So
fears
when I
and
was young,
anxieties are between the
and you go ahead.
between the air.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. All right, Jared.
Yeah, so when I was young, lived in a house with a kind of deep cellar. It was really dark there. Whenever I walked by the stairs, real scared.
Yeah, because it's the unknown.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Krishnamurti said we are not afraid of what we do not know. We are afraid of that line where we cease to know,
Yes.
because we find comfort and security in everything that we know, and we basically find nothing beyond that. And this is our losing our foothold. Shogyam Trungpa used to say that enlightenment was a bit like if somebody pulled the carpet from under your feet, but instead of being destabilized, you know, there was nothing under your feet after that. You would still find a way to kind of smile and relax about it. It relates to so many places in our life. This thing, the end of knowledge, like in the dark, is for me probably the most graphic example of it. We are scared of the dark because it's full of things that we do not know, and we can imagine.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess that's pretty much what I have to say today. Are there any questions or commentaries or stuff this week that you guys would like to discuss?
I do have a question which kind of relates to the last doubt, which was was if are people who are practicing Buddhism, are they weak or courageous versus whatever. I was going to become a chaplain in the Navy, and I had a conversation with somebody who I respect a lot, who's very spiritually inclined, and what they said to me was that becoming a monk versus, we'll say, like a chaplain, someone in the field, that becoming a monk is a little bit of a cop-out, whereas you can do the same study and the same work and possibly grow faster outside of a monastery. So that's kind of the only contention I have with becoming a monk or somebody who is no longer a lay person. I don't know how much truth there is to that, because they were not a monk, and I am also not a monk, and but I have a lot of interest in becoming one. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Okay, it might not be pretty. I'll tell you exactly what I think about this.
Yeah, please do.
A few years ago, I worked for actually a Catholic organization that was manned by brothers and sisters, all of them sort of, and they were very nice people. We were treating people with PTSD and giving all kinds of therapy, and of course there was a strong religious flavor to what they were doing. I was just an administrator there, but like you, in a way, I was looking at the monastic life and all aspects of it, because there is an administrative aspect to it as well, where they get a little bit of, they have like their bank account in which they get a deposit from their congregation, and they had cars that were paid by the congregation as well, and some of them were made to live together in apartment, and there were the missionaries that would receive funds. And it was all very interesting to me. But then, speaking with these people, I started noticing that a lot of them had suffered quite a bit, and some of them had lived through terrible struggle. And it just dawned on me that, man, a lot of these people just escaped monastery. Life became too hard, and they felt like they couldn't make it in real life. And so they went to that house where their bank account and their car and their food is managed and everything is taken care of, and therefore they're shielded from life. Well, if you're going in a monastery that way and you stay that way, you're basically wasting your life. That's my opinion. And you won't be able to help a lot of people because you have not dealt with your own escapes and your own traumas, if you will. So it's difficult to teach others to do it. If you come to it and then you really pick up on your practice and you try to work through your stuff, and then you start growing and you develop tools that can help others, then that's another ball game. But then there are those that have the real calling, and they are already studying in real life, and they start thinking that, wow, this is the most important thing I could do with my time. I need to help fellow human beings. I need to spread the word. And I need more time to practice and contemplate on myself so that I do a better job in spreading. So I become a better person, if you will. Well, that's probably the genuine reason and the genuine calling. And it makes perfect sense then that an organization is kind of removing some complications from your life so that you can dedicate yourself entirely to your craft. I mean, if you were a master woodworker, and I would remove all complications from your life, and I would say just you do your craft, you would become an awesome woodworker. That's what happened during the Enlightenment, actually, with Da Vinci's and other geniuses. That they had people taking care of their economy and basically paying them to think, and they came up with amazing inventions and amazing pieces of art. So if you have that level of love for the light and you want to spread it, for me it makes sense that you would choose the domestic. But you see, monastics are just people. There are good ones and bad ones. There are those that are trying hard and not having a lot of success, and those that are trying very little and having a lot of success. It's just unfair like that, like everywhere else on earth.
Yeah.
So I think in the end is, if you can look at at a love relationship in your life, and if you can look at your pets, and you can look at your children, and you can look at your family, and deep down in your heart you feel my cause is more important than all of those people and all of those things I love. If deep down in your heart you feel like walking away from those people would be painful to you, but it would be more useful to humanity, then I would say you have a truth. So it's not a light thing, is it?
No, and I've been giving it a lot of thought, and for sure I'm gonna be doing more retreats and stuff, but I mean, it's fair to say now with my practice, I'm trying to even have it breach when I sleep. I think I practice, very close to at least 20 hours a day. And I'm finding a lot of it is wasted time, where I'm just doing quantity instead of quality. So I'm trying to figure out an answer to that. And I've asked quite a few people, and basically your answer is the wisdom that I think is what pervades, is what's your intention, how much can you do in the place that you are, and is it worth going on? So it's just something to think about. I appreciate your opinion as well.
Creek,
Well,
I was so much wanting to go to a monastery and become a monastic, or just going to retreat for a long time and just heal myself. And then I had life coming at me, and I chose to marry and have a family. And it's equally, I think, it's equally important that I learn it here, dealing with daily life and bringing that meditation into practice in a real life environment, than to just run away.
Yeah,
I don't know.
agree. Because I agree. I think that the teachings are for people. They're for humans, and in a way, almost not for monks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
yeah, actually, it's a great point that I should have mentioned myself, because that's kind of my relationship with it. My experiences there doing retreats with monks is that on a daily basis they are not being very challenged by life, right? Who, I mean, even when you're doing the chores and you're washing those big houses, you're doing it with 30 other people, so you end up doing I don't know, like 100 feet, 100 square feet of maintenance. Everything is lighter and easier in the monastery.
Yep.
But there are other
We're
things that they
all
are
doing it the
exposed
hard
to.
way. The most
Yeah.
difficult way we can. I think it's much
So,
more rewarding in the end.
of course, if you're, marrying, or maybe you're going through a divorce, or maybe you're being fired from a job, or maybe you are exposed to the pandemics, or all of these are all of this is stuff to deal with that
Yeah,
won't impact maybe the monks directly. And I was shocked actually when there was a tsunami in Japan. Uh, a lot of Zen monks just lost their shit. They panicked. They didn't know what to do, and they were not very useful to the community. I remember one that acted properly, and he became almost an instant saint, because all of the other ones, they were useless. So there, to be a saint on a cushion. I think I've mentioned that previously. That is worthless. Who cares how stable and how peaceful you are when you're sitting on the cushion? What's important is that you can keep yourself together when you are challenged, and when pain hits, and when your world is turned upside down.
Then
So in that there is a lot of value.
in a way, you could say that.
Yes.
I mean, if everyone goes to a monastery and everyone goes to becomes a monk and isolates themselves, then doesn't really get any better, or climate change doesn't really fix itself. So I do think that I think it's also important to realize that you do not have to become a monk or some kind of figure like that to be able to bring change. And in a way, you could say the opposite, that the biggest change is actually by being in the environment that's difficult in and being able to help people over there where it's actually might be
Well,
needed.
Yes.
that is the idea of kind of my path, which is the Shambhala path. That's what rang with me from the beginning. That you are a warrior. You're a Shambhala warrior. What it means is that you're pretty much still in the world. You're pretty much still exposed to war and hurt and everything, but you don't forget the peace. You don't forget the love, and you keep on coming back through resilience, to those qualities that you manage to develop to help yourself and the people around you. So that peaceful warrior notion, uh, to me, feels very adapted to our time, more than maybe retiring forever as a hermit in the forest. But as I said, there is validity to both. We need good wood craftsmen, the same way that we need monks that are really, really dedicated to their craft, and we need poets as well that are very good and woo us away with their words. So it's just a matter of deciding whether you're more of the warrior type or of the studious type, I guess. All right, I hope it helps a lot, Rick, in your definitely try some retreats that will help you see what resonates the best with you.
Thank you guys for your insights as well. Appreciate that.
So let's go another little session and we can disband. Take a deep breath and follow the breath. good experience today, and thank you for being with us again. It's always nice to see you.
So we make the dedication.
Sure.
For the
Take it away,
benefit of
one-armed
beings.
Julia.
For the benefit of beings without exception, I dedicate without any reticence whatsoever all the merit accrued through virtuous acts to the incomparable expanse of totality.
I go to you. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you for the lesson. Learned a lot.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Oh. I posted a link for the JobCon server also if you want to follow for the NASA presentation. It's limited places, so I don't know how the team's gonna manage that, but we're gonna try and squeeze you in. Alright. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah.
Great day.